Reaching a point where you can take your failed 3D prints, grind them up, and turn them back into brand new filament, well, that's basically been the promised land of home 3D printing for well over a decade. Because if you 3D print a lot, then you already know what happens. You get bins full of failed prints, old support material, and the ends of spools. In other words, you get a lot of plastic that's just going to get thrown away, and the whole time you keep buying more filament. This is why the idea of closing that loop and turning waste back into usable filament has always been the dream. And now, Creality's stepping into that space with the all-new M1 filament recycling and filament production system. But here's the twist. What I have here is a prototype unit. In fact, Creality tells me it's the only one in the wild right now. And in a huge shocker, they sent it to me for some reason. So the burning question I have is simple. Is Creality finally solving the home filament recycling issue? Or is this still just a really cool idea that's not quite ready yet? And the more intriguing question I have is, what else can I do with a Creality M1? Keep watching to find out. Before we get into what the M1 actually does, it's worth taking time to talk about why a tool like this even matters, especially if you run 3D printers on a regular basis. So for starters, filament isn't cheap. And if you run a 3D printing business and it's for prototyping like mine, or you run a print farm and you're selling volume parts, the material costs stack up pretty quickly. On top of that, we generate a lot of waste, and where I live, the recycling program won't allow me to recycle any 3D printed plastic. So the idea of taking that waste plastic and turning it back into usable filament isn't just a nice idea. It could actually change the running costs of a 3D printing business. But this video really isn't about any of that theory. It's about the hardware, so let's take a look at that. Okay, so this Creality M1 prototype that I have here looks pretty simple, but there's a lot going on here in order to make filament properly. My first impression of this M1 is that it's surprisingly self-contained. It's roughly the size of an old tower PC, and it's self-sufficient. It really only needs power. You don't have to have any other cables. So even in this limited prototype form, it can be pulled out of the box and powered on and ready to go in about 5 minutes. Okay, let's have a quick flyover of the M1. Up top, on the top of the case, there's the hopper, and that's where you put raw pellets or recycled filament. And you can actually remove that container off the top, and if you look down into the hole there, you'll see the auger, and that collects plastic pellets or recycled material and pushes it into the heat chamber to melt and mix. At the other end of that chamber is the extruder nozzle, where melted material is pushed out in the form of pliable filament. Now, at this stage, that filament is thicker and softer than any printer can handle, but the flow can be captured in this provided pull cart, they call it, and dragged around the tensioners in the filament path down to the bottom of the cabinet. Now, I'll note here that the pull cart has a cutter built into it, which can trim the filament down in the bottom in preparation for the winder. But I'm a bit ham-fisted, and I broke that cutter handle on the prototype. So I need to wait for Creality to send me a new one that they're going to have an improved design for. So in my case, I'm just going to use a pair of cutters to cut the filament before I put it into the winder. And winding is the final process for making your own filament. And really all you have to do is take that cut piece of filament you have and shove it into that cone down at the bottom of the cabinet. And it will follow a curved path and come out a tube up beside the spool. Now, I tend to use old spools for my bamboo printer, and bamboo printers like filament to come off the spool freely at the end. So rather than poke the filament through some hole in the provided spool, I'm going to just use a piece of tape to hold the filament onto the end of the spool for winding. Now, this stage is the most challenging because you need to work pretty quickly to get the filament attached to the spool and start the winding process. It takes a bit of practice, and after a half dozen spools that I've created, I'm still improving. However, once the winding starts, the filament will roll onto the spool in an orderly fashion, and it actually is very tight on the spool. So at this point, your job is pretty much finished, and all you really need to do now is monitor the filament diameter in real time on the M1 screen, and just watch in amazement as your roll of filament is created. So I will point out that I'm only using fresh pellets in this video rather than recycled material. Creality did tell me that they're still working on the mix between recycled material and actual fresh pellets. You're still going to need some of those for recycled material to keep it stable. Currently, the recommended ratio is a 50-50 blend of recycled material to virgin PLA pellets, but Creality's ultimate goal here is to support processing of 100% recycled material. So once you're out of pellets, the extrusion process will stop, and you can find out how much material you extruded into filament, of course, on screen. But all you really have to do now is cut the filament and pull the spool off the M1, and you have a fully formed spool. In this case, I just use clear pellets, so there's no color here. Now, the speed currently on this prototype is about 650 grams of filament per hour, but the goal, Creality stated to me, was a kilogram. So basically a full roll of filament every hour. Now, the last thing to do is to actually prove that this filament works. So I'll take it over to my H2D and I'll put it in the AMS there. And I'll print a Benchy, and I won't show you the whole printing of a Benchy because you've seen it, and this video is not about printing, it's about filament creation. But I will show you the final Benchy here. Now there's a bit of stringing here, and I think that's because my pellets weren't quite dry enough. But you'll see in subsequent prints that where I dried it for 5 or 6 hours, it printed a whole lot better than that. Being able to create transparent filament is quite an achievement, really, but the result isn't actually very exciting because it's transparent. Creating filament with color is really where it's at, but this is a place where you're going to move from engineering into art, and that's because color accuracy in the resultant filament can be unpredictable if you aren't careful. You start with the same clear pellets that we did before, and then you add color concentrate, often referred to as master batch. Now, master batch is also in the form of pellets, but mixing in even small amounts will provide a real blast of color. It typically comes in red, blue, and yellow, the primary colors, but also black and white. And you can sometimes find pre-mixed master batch for common colors, which will save you a ton of time. You can mix and blend carefully measured amounts into the pellets, and it will be turned into filament, and it will really change the color that can be produced. Now, the overall amount of master batch that goes into the filament will determine the darkness of the color, and then the mix and amounts of master batch will determine the hue. Let me show you. So I'll first measure out my pellets, the PLA pellets, and I'm going to use 100 grams. I'm not going to make a lot of filament here because who knows what color I'm going to get. This is the very first time I'm doing this, so you get to see how I messed this up. Now, I took equal amounts of red and blue, and the total amount of those two is about 5 grams. So we have 100 grams of pellets and 5 grams of master batch. And I'm just going to mix that in, and you can just stir it around. This looks surprisingly sparse, but believe it or not, this will make incredible color. So I'll pour it into the hopper, and you can see it there. And again, you can see how sparse those colors are. Once I get it up and running here in the filament extruder, you can see how dark that filament is that's coming out. What I was hoping for was a kind of an eggplant color, so dark purple, and what I ended up with was something that was extremely dark purple, almost like chocolate brown. Next, I tried to make a green color, and this one I had a little more success, so I used 3 parts of yellow and 1 part of blue. And when I pulled this through the filament extruder, it came out a surprisingly nice shade of green. It was more like a lime color. And here's some of the batches I made. You can see there's that transparent filament that I made first. Then I made this one that was kind of a coppery color. So that was the same general mix, red and blue, but I used less of it, as I mentioned, the hue and the brightness of the colors. And then finally, that green color. Now, if you want to do something crazy, you can use a lot less of a color, and what you get is something that's translucent. So I made this translucent green. And, so if you're printing 3D printing a lime, you get the dark for the outside and the light for the inside. Just to show this, I printed a bunch of squares here, and you can see them, how the print actually came out. And of course, I had a Benchy there, and I'll show you that again. So So those are some of the experiments I did and some of the results I got. I'm going to do some more of this because it's actually quite enjoyable to see what you get. And I think the importance here is once you get a color you like, you have to write it down because you need that mixture to be reproducible. All right, so let me get this wrapped up here. I won't go through a bunch of formal pros and cons, but I'll tell you some things I really enjoyed here and some things that I still ran into as a result of this being a prototype. So first of all, this unit is completely standalone and self-contained, so you don't have to have it sitting on a workbench anywhere. You can actually unplug it and put it on a shelf and bring it out when you need it. It doesn't take up space in your regular work area, so that's kind of cool. Now, there were a couple of things I ran into here as well. The variation on the filament, the spec for that is supposed to be, I think, 0.05 millimeters of accuracy. I ran into about 0.07, 0.08, so it was a little larger than it's supposed to be, and Creality is working on that. I mentioned it to them, and they're going to do some kind of software update. There's also going to be some learning curve here. This isn't going to be something you just turn on and magic happens, particularly getting filament put on the spool properly as it's spewing out of this extruder. To get that in there and either tape down or put through a hole and then turn the winder on. There's a bit of some learning there. I've made about 6 or 7 spools now, and they're starting to get better, but it's not going to happen on the first one. The first one, and I showed you in this video, the clear spool was the very first one I did, and the packing on that spool was pretty messy. Finally, the thing, it's not really a downside, but it's something you need to understand. The changing colors, so if you're going from making red filament to making blue filament, there's a lot of pellets or kind of half melted pellets in the extruder when you change colors. So it will take a fair while to get the color completely transitioned over to the new color. You figure you're going to extrude, I don't know, 12, maybe 15 feet of filament in the extruder to get that color transition happen. Now, you can use this as an advantage because what this allows you to do is create gradient filament. So you can put a little of one color in, start it through the extruder, put some of another color in, and over the span of 8 or 10 feet of filament, that will change color, and it's a very gradual thing. And I can show you a bit because I did it by accident, and I thought it was actually kind of cool when it happened. So all in all, that one I would say is not really a disadvantage, but it's something you need to understand. So at the beginning of this video, I asked if the Creality M1 actually solves a problem, and the answer is yes. It allows PLA or PETG filament to be created with relative ease, and once recycled filament is supported, this is going to save a ton of money and also help reduce the amount of plastic being dumped into landfills. So it's all good. I also asked what else the M1 could do, and maybe this is something Creality didn't anticipate. If you're doing work for business customers like I do, maybe you have a print farm, the M1 allows you to create any color you want, and that satisfies business customers who want all of their prints in their official corporate colors, because lots of them do. I run into them all the time. This is a big one for me, and I would buy this M1 just for enabling that capability in my business. So if this is something you want to follow or maybe even get your hands on, Creality is planning to bring the M1 to market with a crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo. And I'll put a link in the description down below so you can check it out and just see where the project is at. Now, I'm genuinely curious if you think that this Creality M1 is going to be useful to you. And I mean, typically, if you have a small business, this would be a perfect application. Would you actually recycle filament at home or in your small business if the process was as simple as it is with this M1? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you're really into shop technology and some of the projects you can build with it, or you got something out of this video, then click the thumbs up and make sure that you're also subscribed so you can see other videos like this one. And with that, I'll wind down. I'll say get out there, make your world, and I'll see you next time.